From the deliverance of the people of Israel from Egyptian slavery in Exodus, and the giving of the law in Leviticus, we now move on to the fourth book of the Bible, the fourth book written by Moses, the book of Numbers. Unlike the events of both Exodus and Leviticus, which take place over only a few months, the events of Numbers span more than 40 years. In Exodus, God brought the people out of Egypt and gave them the tabernacle, the place where they could gather to worship him. In Leviticus, God began preparing them to be a nation, to be his people, readying them to enter into the land that God had promised to Abraham centuries earlier. The name Numbers comes from the census of the people that God commanded Moses to take at the beginning of this book. The people of Israel were numbered and organized by tribe. Then the camp is arranged with the tabernacle at the center and the tribes circled around it, each tribe having equal access to God. In final preparation, before they enter into the promised land, the tabernacle is completed and the people are cleansed. The Israelites make their way out of the desert of Sin into the wilderness of Paran, to the border of the promised land. There, God instructs Moses to send 12 men to spy out the land. When they return, 10 of the men declare that the land is full of giants and unconquerable, while 2 acknowledge the giants, but stand confident that God can give them victory. Sadly, the people side with fear and follow the 10 spies away from the promised land and away from God's will. As a result of their faithlessness and fear, God banishes the people from the promised land and tells them that they will not be able to enter again. He sends them back to the wilderness to wander until everyone over the age of 20 has died. Over the next 40 years, God provides for the people with manna and quail in the desert and water from a rock. He protects them from the attacks of the Amorites and the people of Bashan, and he preserves them physically by preventing their clothes and sandals from wearing out, and spiritually by keeping them from the curse of Balaam and providing them sacrifices for their purification when they sinned. With the final chapters of this book, God offers some further instruction to his people, specifically giving them guidance regarding offerings, sacrifices, and celebrations. Even though the people were wandering in the wilderness, unable to reach the promised land, God still expected their worship, expected them to celebrate all that he had done for them already, and he provided for them along the way. Sadly, in one final act of compromise, the tribes of Reuben and Gad decide that they're satisfied with not stepping into the full blessing and land that God had promised them. But they were happy to live on the east side of the Jordan River, just outside of God's place of blessing, while the rest of the nation prepared to embrace all that God had promised them through Abraham centuries earlier. Finally, the scarlet thread. Numbers 3 talks about the redemption of the firstborn. Rather than demanding that the firstborn from each family work at the tabernacle, God redeemed them by taking the tribe of Levi to be the substitutes in their place. Likewise, though our sin demanded our life as payment, according to 1 Corinthians 1:3, God accepted the death of Christ as redemption in our place. He became the substitute for us. Thank you for joining me for Through the Bible in 5 Minutes. I look forward to seeing you next time.